Welcome to Stardust Stereo. I'm Parker McPhinney. I'm your host. Today is the 28th of July, year 2024. Today we're going to talk about Mars in Gemini. I just did an entire podcast on Mars in Gemini. And I hated the sound quality so much I deleted it. So this is take 2. And that sort of epitomizes Mars in Gemini. Mars in Gemini is about talking, communicating, and listening. And the more I listened to the podcast I did, the more I hated it. So I realized you just have to do it again. Mars in Gemini is about the dualistic, the twins, the two sides. It's not a bad thing. It's a little frustrating, but it's also about being able to go over what you've already done to make it correct in your standards. Mars in Gemini this go around is about allowing your ideas to be challenged by yourself, by others. A really great idea can only endure the test of time. This transit of Mars through Gemini is an excellent placement, a great time to reflect on why you hold the ideas that you do. And also to contemplate why your actions and your words are the way they are. And do they truly reflect critical thinking? I've challenged myself in the last years to listen more to a perspective that I did not hold. And it altered the way that I looked at the big picture. It also helped relationships. Mars in Gemini is a placement in which the thinking mind, the intellect, works with the hands, the arms, what we would utilize to implement what is going on in the brain. So if you are a craftsperson that really needs to plot out before you take action, this is your time. Mars will be in a square to Mercury, which is right now in Virgo. So that perfectionism vibration, not being satisfied with what is, will be prevalent, as I have experienced this morning already. Mercury will go retrograde on the 5th of August, and it will stay retrograde until the 28th. It will re-enter Leo. But right now, while it's in Virgo, it is acting as a tester for you. Or we could say it will add to the frustration that you may feel when you fall short of perfectionism. On the 14th of August, Mars will conjunct Jupiter. This can be a very optimistic joining of the planets. It's really the big push in some concept, idea, or planning that you may have. It also can be a little bit over-optimistic, although I don't think too much, because all through this Mars transit of Gemini, it will be in a square to Saturn and Neptune, helping us to question our perspective, to question our correct calculations. It gives just enough doubt to be useful. The ability to see both sides and to change your mind your position through contemplation is a great strength. I mean, this is what diplomats have as the number one asset on their resume. So we can all benefit from this Mars in Gemini, even if we do find ourselves talking out of both sides of our mouth. We will certainly see this in the political arena worldwide. But we, you and I, can make a deeper commitment to exploring why we have the concepts we do, and if they're still beneficial to us, and what do we gain by embracing a larger arena of ideas. This is the chess master's placement. Contemplating every move before you make your move. It is also the writer's placement and the orator's placement. Martin Luther King had Mars in Gemini, and we know how he inspired the masses. Now, on the 16th of August, Mars will square Saturn. That's when Doubting Thomas comes in. And then on the 3rd of September, Mars will square Neptune. Now, when Mars squares Neptune, this can be inspiration, this can be over-idealization, it can be the con man, it can be deception. We never know which higher or lower characteristic of an aspect is going to manifest. It is truly up to the individual of whether they take the high road or the low road. But I would caution when Mars is square Neptune that week of September 3rd, that's a holiday weekend in America, to contemplate super caution. Contemplate the benefits of erring on the side of less than more. This is a multitask placement, so you can be a juggler, and actually juggling is really good for the brain. It's another mind-hand coordination. So Mars will stay in Gemini from July 20th until September 5th. I encourage you to journal. I encourage you to take up chess. Get out and have conversations with people that have the opposing view. See if you can stay diplomatic. See if you can erase emotion from the conversation. And if you can intellectually challenge yourself to put yourself in the other person's perspective and their position. Contrary to popular belief, we do not maintain the same views throughout our entire life if we're at all growing. If we stay isolated in a cave and we never engage with anybody who thinks different than us, then yes, maybe you have one view your entire life, but I cannot think of a more boring brain than somebody that never allows themselves to challenge their perspective, because we live in this very diverse world. And even though you may find that your values are different from other people, there used to be the social fabric that allowed us to have a conversation and a discussion and respect for those who thought differently and still continue to be in a loving relationship. I challenged myself personally on this level, and it did help me to understand other people's perspective. And I can even say that as I have grown, I've become more conservative. I actually identify on a level with other people that I used to oppose. And when I see this change in myself because of conditioning, of how I used to think and then life experience that changed that thinking, it allows me to have more wiggle room for others that may be taking a position that I don't particularly understand. So I encourage everybody to unplug from their ideology and plug into a different one for a little while, just to see if your perspective changes. It may not, but that you attempted to do this is a fabulous thing. I also want to mention a Ayurvedic tea recipe to strengthen your immune system. 8 pieces of garlic, 10 to 20 cloves, 1/8 of an inch of fresh turmeric, and if you don't have fresh turmeric, use 2 teaspoons of powdered turmeric, all in 8 cups of water. Boil it. Once it's boiled, simmer it for 5 minutes, strain it, drink it throughout the day, eat the ingredients, and do this for 3 days to strengthen your immune system. Then wait a week, do it again. If you happen to get COVID, you can use this to help boost your immune system as well. Ayurvedic recipe. The other thing that I would like to mention is reading. There are some fabulous books out there. And one that I think is actually apropos in a strange way is Sebastian Junger, My Time of Dying. I heard him on a Joe Rogan podcast. I was just fascinated by his story. I recommend this. You can get it at the library. And part of the reason why I recommend it is we often live under this deep illusion that tomorrow is guaranteed. It is not for anybody. And his particular story, in which he had a near-death experience, brings to light that truth and how he has joyously embraced and looks at his life very different after having this experience. I find him to be a fantastic writer. This should be the month of reading. And visit your library, because Mars in Gemini is about writing, communicating, listening. Sometimes listening is more of a tool to communicate than uttering words. So I also challenge yourself to listen more in the next 6 weeks. Take up an instrument, play the piano, the drums. Oh, I saw a great little flick on Prime called The Visitor. I highly recommend that. It's very much about putting yourself in another's perspective. I just thought on that. I don't know if it's still on Prime, but it might be. It is a film that certainly demonstrates everything that I've just talked about, Mars and Gemini, of putting yourself in another's perspective and how it can expand your horizons. And it also has some fantastic drumming in it. That is our podcast for this Mars and Gemini. I would like to take this moment to thank my patrons. You know who you are. If you'd like to become a patron, you can do so at patreon.com/ParkerMcP. You can check out my website, kitchensorry.com, if you'd like a personal reading. That's the word kitchen, then the word sorry, SARI.com. And I want to remind you, you are made of stardust, so go shine.